It was 2:43 p.m. on a Saturday when I came home early and found a man's belt hanging on the doorknob of our guest bedroom. Not mine. It was one of those thick leather ones with the kind of fancy buckle you don't usually find at the department store, the kind of thing that says, "I care about how I look naked." At first, I just stared at it. My brain tried to make sense of it. Maybe it belonged to her brother, or a neighbor borrowing the shower after a pipe burst, or some stupid reason like that. You know those moments where your mind doesn't want to catch up with your eyes? That's where I was, frozen in place with my grocery bag still in hand, staring at that belt like it might suddenly explain itself. I didn't even go looking for her right away. I just stood there, thinking about the lies she'd told me that morning. She said she was going to visit her friend Angie, who lives on the other side of town, and that they were going to work on some kind of scrapbooking project. Rachel doesn't scrapbook. She's never scrapbooked in her life. She once told me people who scrapbook don't have enough real problems, which at the time I thought was just a weird opinion. Now, I'm wondering if that was her way of telling me she'd rather do anything else, including fuck another man, than sit around pasting memories into a photo book. When I finally moved, I didn't storm in like some raging bull. I walked, slowly, methodically, like I was afraid to startle whatever was waiting on the other side of that door. I passed through our living room, which was suspiciously clean, not a blanket out of place, no coffee mug in the sink. I turned the corner, past the hallway mirror, and I actually paused to look at myself. I looked tired. My shirt had a stain on the hem, probably from the ketchup bottle exploding at lunch, and there was a small rip in the collar from where the dog tugged at it earlier in the week. I looked like a man who didn't see it coming. The guest room door was almost closed but not latched, and I heard movement. Not loud, not obvious, just the faint sound of a drawer being opened, then shut. No voices. No laughter. Nothing you'd expect from an affair caught in motion. Just casual sounds, like someone getting dressed. I pushed the door open. Rachel was alone, standing near the window in nothing but a long t-shirt and underwear, folding a pair of jeans that definitely weren't mine. On the bed behind her was a man's watch and a half-zipped duffel bag. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. She looked up, saw me, and her face twisted into something I still can't describe. It wasn't shock or guilt. It was something worse, resignation. Like she already had a speech prepared for this exact moment. "Hey," she said, as if I'd just come home from work and not walked in on what was clearly the tail end of someone else being inside my house, my wife, and probably my shower too. "I forgot something," I said, holding up the bag of groceries like an idiot. "I thought you were at Angie's." "I was going to go," she said, sitting down on the edge of the bed. Then plans changed. "Whose stuff is that?" I asked, gesturing to the bed, even though I already knew. It was just something to say. She didn't answer right away. She folded her arms across her chest and looked out the window like she was waiting for a train to arrive. "His name is Peter. He's nobody, really." I was going to end it. "You were going to end it?" I laughed, but it wasn't the funny kind. It was that dry, scratchy laugh that escapes your throat when you're about 2 seconds from losing your shit. "When? After lunch? After you both had your turn in our bed." "It wasn't like that," she said, standing up now. "It's not just some cheap thing. It's not what you think." "Oh, thank God," I said, tossing the grocery bag onto the floor. "Because what I think is that you brought a stranger into our house, lied about scrapbooking, and fucked him in the room where my sister slept last Christmas." She flinched at that, but I didn't stop. "You could have picked a motel. Hell, the backseat of his car would have been more respectful." "I didn't mean for you to find out this way," she whispered. "Yeah? How are you planning to tell me?" "With glitter and glue sticks." She stepped closer, and for a second I thought she was going to touch my arm, maybe try to comfort me like I was the one who had made a mistake. I stepped back. "Don't," I said. "Don't you dare try to explain this like it's something I'll eventually understand." "I'm not happy, Mike," she said, her voice cracking, finally. "I haven't been for a long time." "Then you talk to me," I said. "You don't bring some asshole into my home and leave his belt like a fucking calling card." She didn't cry. That was the worst part. She just stood there, arms wrapped around herself, like she was the victim, like I'd interrupted something personal, something sacred. I turned and walked out before I could say something I'd regret, like how I'd given up a job promotion to stay close to her, or how I put off my own dreams to support hers, or how every night for the last 3 months I'd stayed up wondering what I did wrong, blaming myself for the silence in our marriage. And the worst part is, that was just the beginning. I didn't leave the house right away. I thought I would. I thought I'd walk out and just keep walking until my legs gave out, but instead, I stood in the kitchen for a long time, listening. I didn't hear a second voice, no footsteps, no door opening or closing. Just the dull hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of the wall clock that Rachel insisted we needed, even though we both had phones. I expected him to come out, maybe shirtless and smug, ready to explain himself like he was owed a conversation, but the silence dragged on. Eventually, I realized he was already gone. Just her in there now, pacing probably, waiting to see if I was coming back with more questions or if I'd just disappear into a corner of the city and never return. That would have been easier for her, I bet. I opened the fridge, stared at the same leftovers we hadn't touched in 3 days, then closed it again. I didn't even know why I did that. Habit, maybe. Or maybe I was just stalling because the idea of going back in there and facing her made my stomach twist. I pulled out my phone, not to call anyone, but to check the time. I stood like that for another few minutes before I finally went back down the hall. The guest room door was open now, and she wasn't in it. She was in our bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed with her arms hanging loose between her knees like she'd just run a marathon and didn't have the strength to stand. "You want to keep talking?" I said from the doorway, not stepping in. She didn't look at me. "Not really, but I guess we should." I stepped in but didn't sit down. "How long?" 2 months, she said, her voice flat. "Is that the truth? Or is that what you think I can handle?" "It's the truth," she said. "It was once a week, sometimes less. Not every day. Not constant. That's supposed to make it better?" "No," she said. "I'm just trying to answer the question." I stayed quiet for a moment. My eyes landed on the nightstand, where our wedding picture still sat. I remembered that day so clearly, the awkward photographer, the itchy collar, the way she kept stepping on her own dress because she wouldn't stop laughing. I looked away. "Did you bring him here every time?" She finally looked at me. "No. Once. Today." "And that's supposed to be the truth too?" "Yes. You picked our house. Our bed. It wasn't planned. I didn't expect him to come over. We were supposed to meet somewhere else, but plans changed. He was nearby. I said it was fine. So he walked in here like it was normal? He parked around the corner. He didn't even bring his car in the driveway. Wow, that's respectful. I'm not defending it, Mike." "No, you're not defending it. You're just laying it out like a schedule. Like you're reporting the weather. What do you want me to say?" "I want you to say something that sounds like regret. I didn't mean for you to find out this way. That's not regret. That's just you being pissed you got caught." "I'm not pissed." "Then why aren't you crying? Why aren't you begging me not to leave?" She took a long breath. "Because I don't think you'd believe me if I did." I laughed. I couldn't help it. That laugh wasn't joy. It was bitter and sharp and hollow. "Try me. I'm not in love with him," she said. "It was about feeling something different. That's all. I didn't want to ruin our marriage, Mike. I don't know. I didn't want to feel stuck anymore." "You didn't want to feel stuck," I repeated. "So you unzipped your pants and solved it that way." "That's not fair." "It's not? Because it feels like the cleanest way to describe what happened. I know you're hurt." "Hurt? That's a cute word for it. I've been cheated on in my house and my life. You told me lies to my face and then said it was because you didn't feel something. Do you know how many times I didn't feel something but still showed up?" She stood up then, walked past me, and went straight into the bathroom. She didn't slam the door. She didn't scream. Just walked like the conversation was over. I followed her. I couldn't stop myself. "Is this it?" I said through the doorway. "Are we done talking?" She turned on the sink, rinsed her hands, looked in the mirror. "Mike," she said without turning, "I didn't expect to fall out of love with you. But I think I did. And I didn't know how to say it because I didn't want to break your heart. So I broke it the worst way instead." I didn't answer. I just walked away. I went outside, sat in the car, and locked the doors. I wasn't driving anywhere. I just needed space from the air in that house. I needed to sit with the fact that the woman I loved had said the quiet part out loud. She didn't love me anymore. And I realized then that it wasn't the sex that broke me. It was the way she talked about it, like it wasn't a betrayal but a symptom of something worse. Like I was a worn-out couch she'd grown tired of and didn't have the heart to replace yet. And as I sat there in that parked car with the engine off, I started to think not about how I could fix it, but about how I could make her feel what I was feeling. Not just sadness, not just guilt. Something real, something sharp, something unforgettable. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. She made coffee, fed the dog, even asked me if I wanted toast like she hadn't told me the day before that she stopped loving me and was screwing a guy named Peter in our guest room. I sat at the kitchen table just staring at her back, wondering how many mornings she stood right there, buttering bread, knowing damn well what she was doing behind mine. I didn't say anything for a while. I let her pretend. I let her have those quiet little moments of fake normalcy because I wanted to see how long she could keep the act going. She poured her coffee, added the usual 2 sugars and a splash of milk, then turned to me with that same blank expression she'd been using to cover up her mess. "You're not working today?" she asked, like she forgot it was Saturday and like she cared. "No," I said, looking straight at her. "I've got something more important today." She tilted her head. "Like what?" "I'm going to meet Peter." That hit. Her face dropped fast, like she'd forgotten she wasn't supposed to be surprised. "What?" "I figured if he's going to be part of this story, I might as well see what makes him worth throwing away a marriage." "You're not serious." "I've never been more serious. I know where he works. I know what he drives. And since he's comfortable enough to leave his shit in my house, I think he should be comfortable enough to talk to me." "Mike, don't do this." "Why not? You weren't concerned about how I'd feel when you unzipped his jeans." She stepped closer. "You don't need to make this worse. You already made it worse. Now I'm just seeing how far the damage goes." "You think this is helping?" "No. But it's going to happen." I stood, walked past her, grabbed my keys, and didn't look back. She didn't try to stop me again. She just stood there, arms crossed, trying to keep her composure. I knew if I stayed even 5 more seconds, I'd say something that would take this whole thing past the point of return if it wasn't already there. I had no actual plan. I didn't even know what I wanted to say to him. Maybe I wanted to punch him. Maybe I just wanted to look him in the eye and let him see what he helped break. But what I really wanted, what I needed, was the truth straight from him, because I didn't trust a damn word that came out of Rachel's mouth anymore. I drove across town to the office building where she said he worked. I didn't go inside. I waited in the parking lot with the windows down and my seat tilted back. I sat there for over an hour before I saw him. He walked out wearing a casual jacket, carrying a gym bag, like it was just another Saturday and he had nothing to worry about. I got out and walked straight toward him. "Peter." He stopped. "Yeah, I'm Rachel's husband." His eyes went wide for a second, then he looked around like he thought maybe I'd brought backup. "Okay," he said cautiously. "What do you want?" "I want the truth. You know what I'm talking about. I'm not here to fight you, but I'm not walking away without answers." He took a breath and looked down at his bag. "All right," he said. "Let's sit over there." We sat on the edge of a concrete planter near the parking lot entrance, out of earshot from anyone else. He didn't try to act tough, didn't pretend like I was the problem. That surprised me. He looked tired, like this wasn't the first time he'd had a conversation like this, which honestly made me hate him more. "So how'd it start?" I asked, watching him closely. "She came into the office with one of her clients," he said. "We were both waiting on a meeting to end, and we just started talking. It wasn't anything serious at first. She said it wasn't physical right away." "It wasn't," he admitted. "It started with texting, then coffee, then lunch. It escalated. She brought you to her house." He looked ashamed. "I didn't know it was your house at first. I thought she lived alone. She told me later, but said you were working late. I didn't ask questions. So you just went along with it." "I did," he said. "I'm not proud of it. I didn't know how deep I was until it was too late." "Do you love her?" He paused. "No. I thought I might, but no." "Then why the hell would you do this?" "I don't know," he said quietly. "She made me feel important, like I mattered. She has a husband." "I know that now." I stood up. "You don't need to worry about her anymore. She's all yours if you want her." He looked up at me. "I don't." I left him sitting there, staring at the ground. I didn't feel better. I didn't feel anything. Just empty. I went home and walked inside without saying a word. Rachel was still in the kitchen, now sitting at the table with her hands in her lap like she was waiting for a verdict. "So," she asked, barely above a whisper, "he doesn't love you?" She flinched. "He said he thought he might, but no, he doesn't." She didn't reply. "And you know what else? He didn't even know you were married at first. So you didn't just cheat. You lied. You planned. You manipulated." "I know," she said. "Do you?" I asked, sitting down across from her. "Because I don't think you've really grasped what you've done." "I'm sorry, Mike." "I don't care." She looked away. I watched her, waiting for something real to come out of her mouth. But she just sat there, quiet, like all the damage was already done, and there was nothing left to say. And maybe there wasn't. The first thing I did was change the locks. I waited until she went to work on Monday, then called in sick and had the locksmith over by noon. I didn't ask her to move out. I didn't warn her. I just wanted her to feel, for once, what it was like to be shut out of something you thought was yours. I left her key on the counter along with a note that said, "Call me before you try the door." That was it. No explanation. No argument. I knew it would eat at her more than yelling ever could. She called at 5:41 p.m. sharp. I didn't answer. Then again at 5:49, and again at 6:02. Still nothing. I waited until the fourth call came through at 6:17 and then picked up. "You changed the locks," she said, voice sharp like she hadn't been caught fucking someone else in our house 3 days ago. "Yes." "Are you serious right now?" "I've never been more serious in my life." "You can't just—" "I can," I interrupted. "You brought another man into this house. Into our bed. You lied every day for weeks. You think you're entitled to anything here now?" "I live there too, Mike." "Not anymore." "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" "It means I'm done pretending you're still part of this family. The kids aren't here. It's just us now. And you're not welcome here anymore." She didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then, quieter, she asked, "Are you kicking me out?" "No. You're just not coming back in. You can't do that legally." "We'll see about that." "This is insane." "Not as insane as what you did. But go ahead. Tell me more about what's fair." She hung up. I stood there in the kitchen for a while, staring at the phone like it might start talking again. Then I opened a drawer and started pulling out old photographs. Ones of our vacations, birthdays, anniversaries, all those smiling lies we took. I tore them up one by one and tossed them in a bag. Then I grabbed a box and went through the rest of the house, every drawer, every shelf, and gathered every single item that belonged to her. Hairbrush, jewelry, sweaters, perfume, the stupid decorative pillow she insisted we needed, all of it. I didn't break anything. I didn't set it on fire. I just packed it up like I was helping someone move out of a motel after one night. By the time I finished, it was nearly midnight. I loaded everything into the trunk of her car, which was still parked in the garage because I refused to let her drive mine anymore. I drove it to her friend Angie's place, the one she pretended to be visiting that day, and left it in the driveway with the same note taped to the steering wheel. "You can stay here now." The next morning, I filed for separation. I didn't want a lawyer at first. I thought maybe I could handle it myself, but after talking to a guy I knew from the gym who'd gone through a brutal split last year, I decided to get someone aggressive. I hired the firm that handled high-profile divorces in the area, the kind that didn't play nice. I handed them everything, my documentation, timelines, financial records, and even the screenshots I pulled from her cloud storage. I didn't feel bad. She made her decisions, and I was done protecting her. That weekend, I showed up at her office with an envelope. I waited until I saw her walk out for lunch, and I handed it to her directly. "What is this?" she asked. "Read it later," I said, then walked away. Inside the envelope was a printed list, 31 things she had taken from me. Not physical things. Time, energy, missed chances, dreams, moments. I listed them all. Under each one, I added what I planned to take back. She would lose access to the house, the accounts, the shared car, and any convenience that came from using my time or my patience. At the bottom, I wrote, "You don't get to cheat and still win." That ends here. That same night, I started making my version of memories. I met up with old friends I hadn't seen in years because she always said they were a bad influence. I went to a club she hated because the music was too loud and stayed out until I couldn't hear my thoughts. I matched with someone on an app just to see if I still had it. We didn't meet up, but I smiled more than I had in months just knowing that someone found me interesting without me trying. 2 weeks later, Rachel sent me a long message, one of those desperate, too late essays people write when they finally realize they're not in control anymore. She said she missed me, said she'd made a huge mistake, said she didn't expect to feel so lost. She said she understood if I hated her but hoped we could talk. She said we'd built something worth saving. I didn't reply. Instead, I sent her an invoice. It was just a plain PDF, titled Emotional Damages, with a list of absurdly specific charges. Every hour I spent wondering where she was. Every night I slept alone while she lied to my face. Every time I believed in her when I shouldn't have. The total came to $387,920. I signed it and wrote at the bottom, "Payment not accepted and apologies." It took her 3 weeks to ask for a real conversation. She didn't call or show up at the house. She sent a long email. No subject line. Just her name and a message that said she was ready to talk. She said she wouldn't try to justify anything, just that she hoped I'd give her a chance to speak in person without yelling or lawyers. I wasn't interested in hearing more excuses, but something about the tone made me agree. I told her she could come to the house on Saturday at noon, 1 hour, nothing more. She replied with just, "Thank you." She showed up exactly on time, wearing the same coat she wore the day I married her. That didn't move me. If anything, it pissed me off. I didn't comment. I led her inside and pointed to the kitchen table. She sat down slowly, like she wasn't sure she had the right to be comfortable. "You said you wouldn't try to explain," I said, sitting across from her. "I won't," she replied, folding her hands in front of her like she was being interrogated. "Then talk." She looked down, then back up at me, her eyes not puffy, not red, just tired. "You were right about everything. About the lying, the manipulation, all of it. There's nothing I can say that makes it better." "Then why are you here?" "Because I want to understand what happens now. I want to know if there's anything left. If we're just signing papers or if there's something else." "There's nothing else." She nodded slowly. "You said that before. I just needed to hear it again." "You thought I'd change my mind?" "No. I hoped you would, but I didn't expect it. You thought I'd look at you, remember something good, and forget what you did. I hoped we could talk like people who shared a life, not enemies." "We're not enemies. Enemies fight. I'm done fighting. We're just done." She bit her lip and looked around the kitchen, at the empty fruit bowl, the mail on the counter, the chair I always used. "I miss this house. I miss waking up here. You should have thought about that before you invited someone else into it." "I know. You think missing something makes it yours again?" "No. I think regret means something, though. To you, maybe. To me, it's just noise." We sat there in silence for a few moments. She wasn't crying. I wasn't shaking. There was no drama, no screaming. Just a quiet, steady wall between us that used to be a marriage. "You said you fell out of love," I said, breaking the silence. "I did," she said, "but not the way you think." "Then tell me how. Since you're being honest now." "I stopped feeling like I mattered. I'd come home and feel invisible. You were always tired, always somewhere else in your head. I didn't know how to say it without sounding selfish. You stopped feeling important, so you made yourself important to someone else. I made a mistake." "No. You made choices. Over and over. You planned it. You lied to my face. That wasn't a mistake." "You're right," she said quietly. "Why him?" I asked. "Why not a one-night stand or some stranger? Why someone you saw every week?" "Because he listened. Because I didn't have to be strong with him. Because I could be whatever version of me I wanted to be. And none of that occurred to you as a problem?" "I thought it was a phase. I thought I'd come back. But then I realized I was already gone. And now I know I destroyed something I can't rebuild." I leaned back in my chair. "What do you want from me, Rachel?" "I want peace. I want to stop living in limbo. I want to know if I need to move forward alone or if you're willing to talk more, maybe eventually." "No." She blinked. "That's it." "Yes, that's it. There's no maybe. There's no eventually. You made a decision, and I'm making mine." She swallowed hard. "Are you seeing someone? Does it matter?" "I guess not. I'm not interested in being anyone's backup plan. Not now, not ever." "I understand. I'll have the rest of the documents signed next week. You can have your lawyer go over them. I'm not contesting anything. I just want it over." She nodded again, slower this time. "Can I say goodbye to the dog?" I almost laughed. "He's in the backyard. You have 5 minutes." She stood, walked slowly toward the back door, and disappeared onto the deck. I didn't follow her. I didn't care what she whispered to the dog. I stayed at the table and stared at the space where she sat. It didn't hurt like it used to. It didn't feel like a punch to the chest anymore. It just felt final. When she came back in, she didn't speak. She grabbed her coat from the chair, walked to the front door, and paused. "I hope you find someone who doesn't make you feel invisible," she said without turning around. I didn't answer. She left. The house got quieter after she left, which was strange because it had already been quiet for weeks. But there was a different kind of silence now, one that didn't come with tension or waiting for footsteps in the hallway. I didn't rush to clean up the traces of her. I didn't touch the drawer where she kept her mail or remove her name from the utility bills that week. I didn't suddenly feel free or empowered or anything people expect when they picture someone moving on. What I felt was stillness. No grief, no anger, no guilt. Just a strange kind of neutral that I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't good, but it wasn't bad either. It was manageable. I took the divorce papers to my lawyer that Monday. I told him to finalize it all as fast as possible. No negotiations, no mediation sessions, just wrap it. He said Rachel's side hadn't pushed back on anything yet, and judging by the look on his face, he was surprised how simple it was turning out. I wasn't. She had nothing left to fight for. She gave up before I even caught her. All this, her crying, the emails, the pathetic final conversation, was just her trying to soften the crash. I wasn't interested in making it easier for her, but I also wasn't going to drag it out. The damage was done. I didn't need to keep kicking at the ruins. The first time I saw her in public after everything, it was at the pharmacy near my office. I was grabbing something quick, mouthwash and deodorant, and she was standing near the self-checkout with a box of tissues and a bottle of wine. She didn't see me at first. She looked tired, not sick or destroyed, just worn out in that permanent way people look when they've been living out of a suitcase or crying in bathrooms too often. When she turned and saw me, we locked eyes. Neither of us spoke. We didn't nod, didn't smile, didn't even flinch. We just looked at each other for maybe 2 seconds, then went back to pretending the other didn't exist. That was better than any apology. A couple weeks later, her sister called me. She said she'd heard about the divorce and wanted to check on me. I said I didn't need checking. She tried to bring up Rachel, how she wasn't doing well, how she'd been staying with friends and struggling to get back on her feet. I let her talk. Then I told her not to call again unless it was about something unrelated to Rachel. I didn't care where she was staying or who she was crying to. She had a chance to be decent. She didn't take it. One night, I pulled out my laptop and went through our shared drive. It was full of old photos, documents, vacation plans, receipts for furniture we no longer owned. I didn't delete anything. I just moved it to a separate folder labeled Archive. I didn't want to pretend those years didn't happen. They did. I just didn't want them cluttering the space I needed to rebuild. I created a new folder called Next. I didn't put anything in it yet. I just liked the way it looked, clean, empty, ready. The dog seemed to adjust faster than I did. He stopped waiting at the door after a few days. He stopped sniffing her side of the bed by the end of the week. Animals don't overthink betrayal. They move on when the routine changes. I took some notes from him. I started walking longer routes, cooking real food instead of grabbing whatever, reading books again, turning my phone off at night. I wasn't doing any of it to heal. I wasn't aiming for recovery. I just wanted normal. I wanted days to feel like they belonged to me again. A few friends invited me out for drinks. I went once. It was fine. Nobody said anything awkward. They didn't ask for details. Most of them had been through worse and didn't need the story. We talked about work, about sports, about the same things we used to talk about when life was easier. I appreciated that. No one tried to fix me. No one told me I'd bounce back. They just let me be there. That was enough. The divorce was finalized exactly 8 weeks after she walked out. I signed the last document in my lawyer's office and didn't even ask for a copy. He said it would be mailed. I said that was fine. On the drive home, I didn't feel anything new. I didn't feel relief or sadness or some wave of emotion. I just drove in traffic, got honked at by some guy in a van, and made a mental note to grab eggs on the way back. That's how it ends. Not with drama. Just with errands. I didn't make some grand announcement. I didn't post anything. I didn't even tell my family. They'd find out eventually. I wasn't interested in being the guy with the divorce story. I wasn't interested in pity or encouragement. I was interested in silence, in space, in mornings without tension and nights without lies. I didn't learn some big lesson. I didn't have an epiphany. What I got out of this was clarity. I saw what happens when someone stops trying and decides their comfort matters more than your trust. I saw what it looks like when a person you love turns into someone you wouldn't let in your house if you met them today. And I saw what happens when you stop begging people to stay and start making them leave. She'll be fine. I know that. She'll cry to a few more people, maybe find someone new, maybe float through apartments until she finds another place to call home. That's her path now. Mine is quieter, smaller, better. And that's the story.